Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will learn Taisis Dibra Maschel, Kaidim Shiyavel De Isser Skila. Let's begin. Kaidim Shiyavel De Isser Skila. These are the words of Rav Ashi, who explained that the question of Rav Bibi was if an individual placed dough in an oven on Shabbos on purpose. Rav Bibi asked, "He tiru le'ler deisa Kaidim Shiyavel De Isser Skila oiloi." There's an Isser Rabbanan to remove bread from the oven. The question is, in this case, did they permit him to remove it from the oven before he comes to an Isser Skila, that the bread will break and then he has an Isser Skila, or did they not permit him? Taisis is going to ask two questions. Let's see. V'im Tamer, and if one asks, my bayehizu, what type of question is this? Imi tirul l'deis, if they permitted him to remove it. Pshita shalai yishma lanu, it's clear that he would not listen to us, im neser if we make it usher for him. If we say it's usher to remove it, the individual is not going to listen, because he's going to get killed. It's going to stay in the oven, it's going to bake. He just did an Isser skill on Shabbos, he's going to get killed. So what's the question? Did we permit him? Did we not permit him? This individual, without a doubt, regardless of what the din is going to remove it. He doesn't want to get killed. The Tiritz Rivan answered, the Imla Tiru, that if the answer to Rav Bibi's question would be that they did not permit him to remove it, Loi Mechayev Skila, he would not be Chayev Skila, even though the bread baked on Shabbos. And he even though he baked the bread on Shabbos. Since he's holding back from removing it through this, that we are making it also for him. So the question is, did they permit him to remove it and now he has to remove it so that it doesn't get killed? Or did they not permit him to remove it, and even though by not removing it it's going to bake, and he break bread on Shabbos, which is in Isser Shabbos, which is Chayev Skila, he won't get Skila since he's holding back from removing it through the instructions of the Rabbanan. Now Tosfos is going to bring a support to this, that if the Rabbanan give an instruction for a person to withhold from something, he won't get the punishment attached to it. That's why it's in purple, because it's supporting what we just said. And so to Masechtas Pesachim, in the end of Perkei Isha, Arel Azav Yizamel. Let's just explain those three things briefly. Arel is an individual who ceased being an Arel. It's referring to a Gershon Isgayer. The din is midrabanan, a Gershon Isgayer. He needs to do Azah on the third and seventh day in order to be considered fully Tahor. So if Erev Pesach falls out before the seventh day is completed, so Minatera, he's obligated to bring the Korban Pesach. Minatera, he's permitted to bring the Korban Pesach. Midrabanan, he's not. He needs to do Azah on the third and seventh days. The Rabbanan kept their din in place, even though it leads that this individual won't bring the Korban Pesach. Hazah is an individual who's Tameh, Minatera, and in order to complete the Tyra process, he needs Azah on the last day, after the days of that lead into the Tyra. Now, if it falls out on Shabbos, there's a shvus midrabanan that hazah is not permitted to be done on Shabbos. So what happens if Erev Pesach falls out on Shabbos? So if the Rabbanan keep in place their Isser to do hazah, this individual remains tummy, he's not fully pure, they can't bring the Korban Pesach. The Rabbanan kept their din in place, even though the individual now cannot bring the Korban Pesach. And Minatera, he's permitted to do hazah, and should do hazah, and bring the Korban Pesach. The Rabbanan kept their din in place. And a zamal is a knife that's used for bris milah, and the din is that the Rabbanan said that if the knife of bris milah on Shabbos is in a different chatzar, it's also to bring it from one chatzar to another on Shabbos, and even though the person won't do the bris milah. Now, if this falls out on Erev Pesach, and the person needs to do a bris milah for his son or his slave, but the knife is in a different courtyard, the Rabbanan kept their Isser in place, and he's not permitted to bring the knife over to do the bris milah, even though this leads that he can't do the Korban Pesach, since the din is that an individual that needs to do a bris milah on his child or Eved Knani, and has not done so, is not permitted to bring the Korban Pesach. So Minatera, he should bring the knife, do the bris milah, and bring the Korban Pesach. The Rabbanan held him back. And Midu Divreim b'Makim Karis, they kept their words in place, even though it's a place of Karis, because Korban Pesach is a Chiyuv Karis for a person who doesn't bring it. So what do we see from here? Leima Chayav Karis, he's not Chayav Karis. Hoil v'Rabbanan hu da Asrilei, since it's the Rabbanan are the ones that made it also from L'me'evet Pesach to do the Pesach. And in those cases, there's no doubt that the person's not Chayav Karis, because he's ready and willing to do what he needs to do. The Rabbanan are holding him back. So too we could say about our case, that since he's being held back by the Rabbanan, he won't get the punishment. Now for the second question of Tosfos. V'im Tamer, if one asks, V'hechi asil de'chiyuv skila, and how could he ever come to a chiyuv skila? We're saying that the case in our Gemara is an Isser skila. There's no chiyuv skila. It's just an Isser skila. And we explained because he won't actually get killed since he's holding back based on an instruction by the Rabbanan. But in order to be an Isser skila, there needs to be a corresponding chiyuv skila. Isser skila means he technically doesn't get it, but there is a case that he would. Tosfos now is asking that it seems that for baking there's never a chiyuv skila. V'hechi asil de chiyuv skila. How could a person ever come to a chiyuv skila? V'asra safaku, but it's a asra safak. Why is it a sra suffix? The b'shah shehidik pas b'taner, because when he attached the dough in the oven, shema hayvadait l'day, so maybe he had in mind to remove it. Kaidem sheyavel l'day is a skilla before it comes to an skilla, and therefore this is considered a sra suffix. A sra suffix means that the warning is given, don't do this because it's usher, but it's not really clear that it's usher because maybe he's going to remove it. Then this that he didn't remove it, shema shachach asra, maybe he forgot the warning. So Tosfos is basically asking that it would seem that there's no chiyuv skilla ever for baking, since there can never be a proper and complete warning, a sra, which is a necessary ingredient for skilla to happen. Because when the person is warned, the sra is given, it's usher to bake, don't do what you're doing, what he's doing now is not necessarily a problem, because for all we know, he has in mind to remove it before it comes to the baking process is complete. V'tiritz Riva, and Riva answered, the kaven shehidbik teich kedei dibur shel asra, since he attached it within teich kedei dibur of the warning, and it will certainly bake if he doesn't remove it. Lav asra suffix. This is not considered asra suffix. The he certainly didn't have in mind to remove it before he baked it. So this is basically answers over here that it's not considered asra suffix that he could remove it. Since by putting it into the oven, the process of baking will happen on its own, it's not considered asra suffix. So what is asra suffix? Explains Tosfos. And that's why it's in purple, because it's completing this idea. It's not considered asra suffix except in the case where he takes the mother from the children. This is referring to shaluach hakan. The din is, the Torah says, you're not permitted to take the mother from the children. However, it's a lav anitik la'aseh, similar to when a person steals. You can't give him a warning on it. Don't steal, it's usher, and he should get malchus, because it's a lav anitik la'aseh. He could undo the lav, the isser, by returning the money. So too by shiluach hakan, it says lo yisikach ha'im alabanim, but he could undo it. He could bring the mother back and shalach the shalach as aim, and send off the mother. So it says Tosfos, v'le'ava asra suffix. It's not considered asra suffix ella, except b'lekech ha'im alabanim, when one takes the mother from her children. Lamanda Amar beperig ve'ilu ein aleikim. This will all fit that it's asra suffix according to the opinion that says in the parak Ilu ein aleikim, it's in Mesechtas Makas, but that opinion basically says that the determining factor of whether malchus could be given through a proper asra by a lav anitik la'aseh is only if the aseh was voided, was removed. That's what we look at. But was it removed or was it not removed? What would that basically mean? It would mean that the individual broke the wings of the bird before he took her away from her children. In that case, when he broke the wings, now he's given a warning, don't remove the bird, it's usher. That's a complete warning. He can never undo it, because once he removes it, the isser is complete. He can't put the bird back and send her off, because she's unable to fly. It says, for all we know, when he removes it, you can't say it's usher, because maybe he's not going to break the wings, he won't kill her, rather he'll bring her back and send her off. You'll say, oh, maybe there could be asra later on. When he removed it, there's no asra because maybe he'll bring her back. But how about if he removes it and now he wants to break the wings? Says Tosfos, now if he goes and breaks the wings, so you can't warn him because it's not asra. There's only asra on the lav. Only on the lav could he give a warning. There's no lav of breaking the wings. The lav was not to take away the mother. At that point, he could still fix it. When he breaks the wings, there's no lav, so you can't get asra on that either. And the lav already happened. So basically over there, the asra is a suffix, since the only way for the issa to be complete if beforehand the wings were broken. So there's missing a maisa. By us, there's no maisa missing. He put the bread into the oven. There's nothing else that needs to be done. It's going to bake on its own. Tosfos gives another example of asra suffix. So too when a person makes a vow, I won't eat this bread if I eat that bread. Let's use an example of a loaf and a slice of bread for clarity. So if a person says, I won't eat this loaf if I eat this slice, and he ate the loaf first, and then he ate the slice, that's asra suffix. Because the first warning that comes when he eats the loaf, you're not allowed to eat it. He's missing the eating of the food that was the condition that it was built on. When they tell him it's not permitted to eat this loaf, that's not true. Because the isser was, I will not eat the loaf if I eat the slice. He didn't eat the slice, so there's no isser in eating the loaf. So a dayin mechusar ma'isa achilu shel tnai is missing the eating of the thing, what it's conditioned on, kodim she's chayav malchus, before he could be chayav malchus. So in the case of the loaf as well, the ma'isa of eating the loaf is not a complete ma'isa. It's missing another ma'isa, just like with the shiluch hakan, it's missing another ma'isa that he didn't break the wings beforehand. But over here, when he attaches the bread, the dough in the oven, there's nothing missing. By putting in the bread, it's going to bake on its own. There's no additional maisa that's needed. That's not considered asra suffik. Asra suffik is when a maisa is missing. So to summarize the Tosfos has two questions. The first question was that the question of Rav Bibi is completely hypothetical and irrelevant because nobody's going to listen and bring themselves to an Isser Skila, all according to Rav Ashi that said it's bemezid and there's an Isser Skila. Tosfos answered that he won't come to an Isser Skila because since he's withholding from removing it based on instruction by the Rabbanan, he won't get the punishment. And Tosfos showed another place where we see such an idea that withholding from something based on instruction by Rabbanan doesn't bring him to the punishment. And the second question of Tosfos was, how could there ever be a chiyuv skila by baking if it's asra suffik? The whole thing is a doubt, since it's possible this individual intends to remove the bread before it bakes. And Tosfos answered, that's not considered asra suffik. Asra suffik is if the action is not complete and another maisa needs to be there in order for this action to be an isser, that's asra suffik because it's missing something to it. But over here, there's no action that's missing. The only act that's needed for the isser to be done is to put it in the oven, and he did that.